multitasking.
Yeah. And, and guess what? They couldn't hear a word we just said because Mike wasn't on.
Oh, shit. Well, let's do it again.
Yeah. Hey, good evening, everyone.
We're having what you call an inside conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Hidden conversation today.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome, guys. We're going to expand this a little bit. Hold it for me real quick. Sorry. Yeah, we're making some adjustments here. I don't know what's going on, but we're making adjustments. All right.
Yes.
So we apologize for that little mishap right there. But it's okay.
It's okay.
This is live. This is live TV. Live TV. It's always to have.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that one too. I guess if you guys are just tuning in, looking at the topic for tonight, we're the truth about lust. Okay, is what it's called. Okay, but that kind of factors into a lot of different things. I know that's a very provocative statement, and which we kind of put together for that purpose to be a provocative statement, because it's something that affects the way everything is in society today.
Well, did you hear the news?
Go right ahead.
In the state of Florida, there's a guy that's running for governorship. He's trying to put a sin tax.
Really?
A sin tax on OnlyFans.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least a sin tax. Well, at least, what, one thing we can say about that, at least that, I would say that it may be going in the right way to make a little bit of money for him. Okay, because that's a very, very popular site for a lot, at the end of the day, and not only for the I guess what you consider nowadays the I don't want to even use the term pornography anyway, because pornography is not even the same thing, because they call it fashion porn now. You got what is it real estate porn?
Yeah.
You got that kind of goes into what we're talking about, because everything is taking on some level of a lust factor in its terminology, So it's a good point we're exploring that tonight, because everything, and of course when you say porn, everybody thinks it's naked,
basically
sexual, naked behavior, whatever.
People have food porn,
and there's another show out there about food porn. So I'm really glad that we kind of in the lust field tonight, I'm talking about that.
But his name is the guy who I'm talking about, who's trying to promote this sin tax bill over OnlyFans. His name is James Fishback.
Oh wow,
Fishback.
Wow.
That's a last name? Fishback.
The sad part about all.
Okay,
go ahead.
But he's promoting this 50% sin tax on OnlyFans creators to fund schools and discourage immoral behavior.
Jeez, okay.
So he might be an evangelical candidate. Basically.
Yeah.
He's running in the state of Florida.
Well, he might as well just go ahead and charge himself. I did say that, didn't I?
Well, hey, we will know, won't we? It'll come to what happens. What goes on in the dark, we're gonna
come to the light.
There you go. It's gonna happen, Captain. You just never know until it happens, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So it's not much we can say about it. I mean, we can say a lot about it, but I don't mean that way. But I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at
I'm doing extra
word at the same time here.
But it's interesting that people would think that just lust is, there are so many people that we know now that are getting in trouble, allegedly, for having situations of lust happening in the situation of in the background of their lives, and the situation that they are, it's messing with their careers. I know people who are gospel fans of Donnie McClurkin. That's a situation in itself that is happening right now, and the situation also with Will Smith allegedly, he's in some scandals with sexual harassment. And then there's also a director. He's director of Avatar.
James Cameron?
Not James Cameron. There's a director who has been messing with children.
Yes, I saw that as well.
I'm trying to get his name out, because to be honest with you, it is that right there is something to Yeah, that right there. I think I'm trying to find his name.
Yeah, blonde beard. Yeah, I know who you're talking
yeah.
about. Yeah, he's been
Gunfire or something like that.
Like that.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Right.
It's now this thing, is getting out of hand with the Epstein files and all that stuff that's going on. I'm surprised people are not even, especially with Puff Daddy. This stuff is really coming out.
Yeah.
I think people, I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize, especially if you have high profile careers, you need to be careful. Right. And especially if you're doing stuff like that, you need to really rethink your life and get some help. Right. I mean, get some help at least.
So let me say this to Instagram people. You know what? We're probably back on camera tonight on Instagram because the way this system is. So, but anyway, come on over. Okay, come over to the Facebook. Yeah, right? Go over to YouTube if you're watching this on Instagram and we're not lined up properly because somehow the camera angles with Instagram and we're doing it live, it doesn't pan out all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're watching on Instagram, you see half of us in between, which I think you do see. Just leave Instagram, go over to the YouTube page, okay? The truth behind the truth on YouTube. Yeah. We're live there. You can see the full picture, or go to the Facebook page as well.
Or just enjoy us on the split screen.
I will.
That'll work. Hopefully you can hear us.
I know, right? But I just want to apologize, guys. It's just why this new system sets up and all that. But anyway, but back to your point, a good thing that we're having this conversation, and we may go another day as well because the way things are going, and I'm trying to find the right word. Maybe you can take it. I can't find the right words for this at this time. It's so unfortunate that we're in this particular position. I mean, it really is.
Well, this used to be very taboo back in the day. You think about the situation with Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky's sex scandal, and what that had happened in the 90s, and how big of a scandal that was, where they wanted to impeach him as president. Right. Nowadays, as big as that was in the 90s,
go ahead, keep going.
It's so totally different. It's like it's a norm.
Right.
It's like it's the norm to now hear all about sex scandals, situations with people having adultery out, just committing adultery out of the marriage and all that stuff. Right. And it's now, like I say, with everything that's going on with social media, it's nothing to really make a big to do about it. It's like, oh wow, you did that.
Right.
So unfortunate, but my God, why? But still, it's not like it was in that. The 90s. You remember Tammy? Who was the evangelical wife? Tammy. With the eyeliner.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. But you know how big of a scandal that was.
Absolutely. I think that we're just getting into a place, and this will probably challenge some of the Christians, out there.
And everybody in society, to be honest with you.
And, I think it's a time of exposure. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And no one is exempt from being exposed now.
Not at all.
Okay. And I think that we're realizing this because just as much as it is, and on the natural being of the natural part of the world that it's happening, it's also happening in the walls of Christianity or faith based or whatever, because there's so much exposure going on, and you mentioned about Diane McClurk, and there is like the title of the show, like the truth behind lust. Okay, at the end of the day, the major problem right now that I have seen for the longest period of time is that in the church realm, people can't be honest about who they are.
That's true.
Because it's always been labeled, or it's been labeled a quote unquote a sin. It's been, they're partaking in something that's not biblical, and and the list of those things go on. And now it's even more so that it's being found out that these myths that people have bought into from a biblical perspective have not even been true at all. So there's more exposure, even that aspect that's coming out of it. Maybe we'll do some future shows about that, because it takes a lot to get into those layers, of historical points and why things were implemented in the Bible and not necessarily part of the scripture. Now that the quest of going is really everybody's trying to pursue look into the Ethiopian Bible, because what they're saying is it's the most true document of the historical faith, instead of the King James, because King James has a lot of stuff that's been put into it. Typically, the homosexual conversation, typically the fact of removing women, the fact of that we've always referred to quote unquote God as the masculine figure, and it clearly states that it's a he, she in scripture, but not in the terms of how we want to look at it. We took on the masculine figure because we thought that was more authoritative, and but that's another history lesson, within the ranks of itself. But my thing is, like, I encourage people, study for yourself. They've been saying it for the longest period of time. Now that people are taking their responsibility to study for themselves and realizing that a lot of the things that they've been taught in the Christian church arena or whatever has not been actual facts or truth. So you can't get mad at people to find out who they are. Okay,
and that's been love was used in the Bible as a way of containing society.
True.
When you think about when in the beginning, when even in the Garden of Eden, the story of when Eve ate the apple, supposedly that was allegedly of some type of lustful factor.
Absolutely.
You think about when people like to bring up the fact of the Babylon had something to the destruction or the downfall of Babylon had to do with situations of lust. Samson and Delilah. That was, people like to bring up that word as condemnation for the shortcomings of humanity.
Exactly.
Even in the story when Mary Magdalene came to also wash the feet of Jesus, even in the midst of her kneeling down, people who knew of her in the town or in the village or wherever she was residing as a whore, they couldn't believe that Jesus was allowed for this woman of lustful energy, a spirit, to come in and wash the feet of Jesus with her hair. So it's always in the Bible some form of, and that's of situations of lust where it comes out as being a condemnation or something that is so ill-willed that you should not have it in your brain or in your mind. That's why in certain, not only Christian religion, but in all a plethora of certain other religions that are very, I would want to say the Islamic faith as well, that having these feelings will bring damnation to you as an individual, which will cast you into some form of punishment. But I feel like this. I feel like lust is all part of being of just humanity if you use it in the right sense of the word. I don't feel if you use it as a way of seeking revenge or doing something that's just devilish, then I think that is the wrong way of go about doing, thinking and using that. But I feel like if it's something that you use as a form of showing love, meaning in a sexual nature, because you can have that type of mentality when you are in love with somebody. When you have that type of spiritual connection,
directed in the right way.
There is that lustful feeling to be with that person in the right sense of the word, not in the wrong. But how people like to use that word. But the facts are the facts. I just feel like when it boils down to it, it's all based on human nature and how we deal and dabble with that word and how we deal with it when it boils down to dealing with other people and other sexes and stuff of that nature. But it's such that word is such a negative. It's a negative.
It's a negative, controversial. But the reason why, number one, is something that we've been taught in the general sense that that word has been taboo because of what it's been attached to. And the first thing we really, I can remember the first thing that you think about or that's put in is that it's on a sexual nature. But people have lust over food. Okay. I mean, really, let's just take it off of the sexual. When you find yourself that you're in an obese category, okay, and you can't control the opportunity of your eating habits, and you consistently gaining weight, that's lust after food. You're in that lust for that food. Yes, you can tell they've got these other issues that are going on, but at the end of the day, those issues are being pampered by the lust for that food. So we really need to, as a society, as a group of humans, we really need to just kind of focus in on why we are interjecting all of this into humanity, and we do it. We're responsible for it. I mean, we've got this the man that so-called a president. That is probably one of the worst examples, but the greatest example of what, and I don't mean in a great sense, but a great showcase of what lust is about. I mean, this man wakes up and goes to sleep in lust. I mean, whether it is for a woman or whatever, whether it is trying the lust for major power at this particular point, that to the fact that he's in lust so deep that he's going to overthrow other countries. Okay, he's in lust so deep that he's trying to negotiate in a country to take their oil, which he has no control over, because he has such lust for power, lust for that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm about to say I agree. Power triggers him. Right. It really it gives him that dopamine that brings about that sense of thinking when it boils down to what you were just explaining. Right. But then you think about the situation with the pastor and his wife at the United Negro College Fund with the dress.
Dressagate now.
I mean, the people who were so busy throwing stones, I think they had a situation where I feel like they were in a situation of battling their sins of lustful thinking, because if you didn't have that in your mind, you wouldn't even worry about what she was wearing.
Exactly.
And that's my thing with the whole scenario of religious thinking when it boils down to dress. Right. Whatever that you are wearing, you should not even have that frame of thinking when you are actually looking at a human being. Right. A dress should not even make you feel like something is absolutely wrong, because something is vexing your spirit to make you think sexual thoughts. That's why I feel like when you are so busy, judging and bringing down an individual who hasn't did anything at all, but wear a unique piece of clothing, and it makes you feel like, oh my God, that is such a sin. Well, why is it a sin? She's wearing clothes. Do you see anything that is wrong or that is exposed? Even going back to what I said about in the Garden of Eden, they didn't even know they were naked until they ate of the fruit.
Right. Absolutely.
They did not even know they were exposed until they ate of the tree of knowledge. And that's where we realize what nakedness looks like. That's what it was called.
No, that's the tree of the ate of, was the tree of the
not the tree of knowledge. No. So what was the difference? Because you're gonna have to educate me, enlighten me.
So, well, that's too long.
No, because I thought that was what it was.
The knowledge of good and evil, because good and evil, because it was stated that there's such a great history point about it. I have to bring my thoughts in for it, if I can encapsulate it real short. Okay, because of their divinity of who they were and what they were created from, they were all, Adam and Eve were God. Okay, because the breath of life went into them. Now, this very controversial to a lot of people, because this when you begin to understand it, it takes the element of what people call sin, or Adam created sin from that. Okay, Adam and Eve knew what they were doing. Okay, at the end of the day, however, the responsibility there and what had happened by partaking of that, anything that they did was called good.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anything that because the God within them, God that who they were, gave them the ability to make an affirmation of it being good. So when he named the trees, and when he named the lions, and when he named everything that was in it, it was named, it was declared good. Yeah. So the scare of that, was the fact that if they would have declared the tree of knowledge of good and evil as good, then it would have changed the whole gamut of what life future would have been. I know it's kind of deep a lot, but you have to really think about that. So this is the reason why it was put out there. I can get into a little bit more. I'm going too fast with it, because it really needs to be broken down. I learned this, years ago, about what took place, and then there's a deeper story behind that. Now y'all have to believe what I'm saying tonight. You can check it out for yourself, all right? But what happened is that when you take the element of what has been propaganded through Christianity, take the element of the sin out of the garden, then they don't have anything to stand on.
Oh, wow.
Okay, you take sin because here's a question for you. Adam, do some of you all, let me throw it out there, do some of y'all believe that Adam was redeemed? A lot of people don't believe that Adam was redeemed because you keep putting him as the father of sin. If he was redeemed, which he was through, through the story has it, through the blood of Jesus. If Jesus' blood went back in captivity and set free to everybody that was in sin, then Adam was free too. So you can't keep telling people that they're involved in sin because of Adam. Okay, but that's a whole nother point. We that are scholars of me and yourself and others, but it really is. It should be a teaching that has been taught. It's being taught to the body of people in general about what truly took place in the Garden of Eden, and there's a lot more to that. Okay, but I'm trying to shorten it as we're talking about right here. But I'm gonna leave it at this, you guys. You guys can challenge me. You send me an email, ttbttshow@gmail, and we can dialogue about it. But I'll tell you, you'll find that if you take the religious bag off your head, okay, and what you think that you've been taught about something, okay, and really get in, just ask yourself the question: was Adam redeemed? Was Adam and Eve redeemed? You ask yourself that question, and it will dissipate the idea of being this propaganda being pushed at you that you born into sin, blah, 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 and all this other type of stuff. And there's another layer to that. All right. But here's the thing. People are waking up. Okay, they are waking up to the truth behind the truth that has been hidden from them for centuries. Okay, and the evangelical, I'm gonna call you out, and some of you other ones don't want that to happen because you think that you're losing the control, what you shouldn't have the control in the first place over anybody's lives. Okay, because the truth will avail. All right, the truth. This has been over thousands of years. This propaganda has been pushed on humanity that they never had a relationship with God in the first place.
Oh wow.
Okay, and then you had to fight. You had to do cartwheels. You had, in some religions, you had to do cartwheels. You had to do back bends to get to even have a conversation with your Creator. Oh my God! Just even through the elements of baptism, you couldn't hear from God because you weren't baptized, and all of this stuff that has been put on people's lives. Okay, but here's again: it is coming to be a farce. Okay, it is. All right. You don't have to believe me. You can say I'm a way off base, whatever you can. But I challenge you, if you don't like what I'm saying or don't like what we're saying, go study. Okay, don't study what you think you need to. You need to go deeper. Matter of fact, that's going to lead me into another little questionable point here. In the same line, our favorite Monty, she has a video out right now. She put out this week. It was more challenging about the history of America, and and she's pulling it out to the Caucasian community. But there's some points in what she's saying that as African Americans, you need to get the books she's talking about so you could be more further knowledge about what's going on. But we'll go ahead and it's a good transition for her, in this particular video. So we'll hear her real quick.
I've been talking about for weeks that the action being taken in the Caribbean was a lie from the Trump administration, saying that they were doing something about drugs. They never proved anything about drugs. They just unalived several innocent fishermen and civilians, but that it was all about money, oil, and power, and it was about seizing the assets of Venezuela for U.S. interests, and they have done just that. This is one of those times I wish I wasn't right. They sent Delta Force and the United States military into Venezuela last night to kidnap Maduro and his wife to some
Sorry, guys, that was the other video that she did last week. Here we go. This is the right one.
I need all my white people to the front, please. Specifically white women, anyone who's deconstructed Christian nationalism and fundamentalism or conservatism, even if you've just gotten started. Had a hell of a day yesterday, especially if you're new to this. You are seeing for the first time that black and brown people were telling us the truth the entire time. And for the first time, probably realizing that the America you were raised to believe exists does not and has never existed. You also realize that you have always been on the chopping block, and many of us, myself included, back when I was part of the movement, contributed to this. I carried water for this. Understand that white supremacy is just a tool to protect capitalism and getting wealthy people even wealthier. It's in the foundation of America, and there's a specific moment in American history where it was instilled. What I want you to do is I want you to grieve, and I want you to feel shocked, and I want you to feel some guilt. Right? Oh my God, I can't believe I bought this. I can't believe I contributed to this. Feel that and then get angrier than you've ever gotten in your entire life, because you have to learn better now and you have to do better. And if you have black or brown friends or coworkers that you remember having conversations with it, well, I just don't think they should be protesting, or, well, if they just follow the law, I want you to have the courage to call them and say, hey, I was wrong and I'm sorry. Conversation ends there. They are not obligated to forgive you. Think about how angry and frustrated you'd be if you've been screaming this from the rooftops for years and nobody listened to you. They're not obligated to forgive you. They're not obligated to teach you. Leave that to me. I'm going to give you some things to start with, okay? The first one is One Day Everyone Will Have Been Against This by Omar El-Akkad. This is the most important book I think white Americans can read right now. This specifically addresses Palestine, but it's relevant to everything we're seeing here. I want you to read it all the way through and then go get a highlighter and then read it through a second time. Then you're going to read A True History of the United States by Daniel Cherson. This is about the real history of the United States. What happened to indigenous people? What happened to black people? Not the whitewashed version of, they came over here for religious freedom. They came over here for money. Humanity Archive, which is recovering the soul of black history from the whitewashing American myth. These are going to be tough reads. And you're going to feel a lot of anger and a lot of shame, and you're going to want to take your ball and go home, and it's important that you don't do that. Because being able to take your ball and go home and blend into the wallpaper is privilege. That's what privilege is that they don't get to stop being black and brown. I could dress down and blend into the crowd if I wanted to. That's privilege. But it doesn't mean my life was easy. It doesn't mean my family wasn't abusive, or that there wasn't assault, or that your dad wasn't an alcoholic, or you didn't bust your ass. And it doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is that none of those problems were because you were white. And because you have the ability to blend in and protect yourself from this movement for a while, should you choose to. And it's really important you don't take your ball and go home. Poverty by America. Understand that this is institutional and it's on purpose. The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. We don't have a justice system. How Southern evangelicals fought to preserve white supremacy. The Bible told them so. And a novel, It Can Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis, which is about fascism taking over the United States. It's really important you stay in this movement. Grieve it. Absolutely grieve it. Feel sad, but feel angry. Understand that you've been used and indoctrinated. I talked to Jane Elliott last year, and I told her, I was like, I still feel a lot of shame for participating in the system. She said, understand, she's like, you're a white person in America. It would be shocking if you did not grow up with some form of internalized racism and whitewashed American history. It's our job to now learn better and do better.
And that is the truth
behind
the truth.
The truth. You know, she could, I'm gonna let you take it, but you know, she could not have just explained it even more thoroughly, you know, at the end of the day, and put a challenge out there, you know, for, in this case, white America to take the responsibility of educating themselves on another level, okay, to diminish this battle between the races that are continually going on now. It's public and to a certain degree, but not majorly, but it's happening behind the corporate desks. It's happening around all these other type of things. It's happening in these homes, in these conversations. And I have Caucasian friends, you know, that are out there, which I love dearly. But, you know, the one thing that you and I talked about this privately, and we're all guilty of this, okay? And I look at when we post pictures, I look at it as when we post pictures of gatherings and whatever the case may be, and I look to see who's in those pictures. And when we don't see a cross-cultural blend of people in those pictures, there's something wrong. We're not extending our love. We're not extending our kindness. We're not extending our faith. We're not being inviting. It's okay long as, you know, I say that I have some white friends, or I say that I have some black friends. You know, it's okay. But why do I have to have a white friend? Why do I have to have a black friend? Why can't this just be my friend or my friends? And then anytime I'm I'm just using an example, I have a gathering, my friends, whatever, everybody's there. Why is this part of this part of my life has to be separated? You know, and I think the very point about that is that there is, back to the title of the night, there is a lust factor involved in that.
Okay.
We lust after the being in the community that we think that we look like, even though typically the most harm comes from the people that we look like versus the people we don't look like.
Well,
we can testify about that one. Yeah. You know, I mean, we really can. That's something. These white people. No. See, you're going in it about the wrong way. It is an internal situation that's going on here. See, you know, there's a scripture that people like to throw around all the time. Boy, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and high places, and spirits and wickedness in high places. All right, that's not what we're talking about, y'all. And we ain't talking about no demons. Okay, we ain't talking about no devil, which y'all like to talk about. Flesh and blood is you. Okay, there is an inner struggle going on with you. There's a lust factor with you. Ain't nothing outside of that is going on except for you. You are conjuring up the ideas in your head. You are making up the idea. Well, this person don't like me because I got this dress on, or whatever the case may be, or I wear glasses to different. We create these things. Okay, the flesh and blood is you. Okay, you're having the internal battle that is going on. So, what the cleansing process needs to do? Yeah, you need to read and study. I mean, I'm challenging everybody to the books that she put. You need to read and study. But the thing about it is that you need to stop studying externally and study internally. Okay, because you are made up of the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. You come from God. Okay, and your ability to change and navigate, some people call it manifestation, not beautiful. Okay, they're only tapping into their godlike mindset at the end of the day. I know y'all don't like that because I call it new age. It is a new age. Every day you wake up is a new age. All right, but anyway, but back to the point. We really need, as humans, you got to go within, people. You got to go within. Well, I made it a place. I'm doing my best to go in, and everything. When I get challenged, I'm going within. You know, I get mad, and I'm not you go. I get mad driving here through LA, okay, and I am cussing all kind of ways because of what I consider the stupidity of the way people drive. And I know y'all do it. Y'all gonna, but at the end of the day, when I said all my rant, say, you know what? And I say to myself, so you know what? Hey, you weren't right for doing that. Even if I'm in the car by myself, I'm telling myself that I wasn't right for doing that. See, that's checking, in my opinion, checking flesh and blood. So I am taking the power from the struggle that I have within me because I am over the power that I have within me. But by the time that other part wants to come out because somebody made me mad, you know. So therefore, they made me mad. Look, the other part of me want a challenge, you know. At the end of the day, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you said a mouthful, to be honest with you. But you know, I think living in this country, we have a very unique experiment in this country where things are classified through sex and race and everything else. You know, this. It's more of a tribal situation where you want to find somebody that to blend and to be or to have a friendship with somebody that's totally different than you. You know, honestly, it's a weird situation to be, which I would call the token friend within a whole bunch of other tokens. You know, and when I mean tokens, I'm meaning, you know, you're the only black friend, you're the only Asian friend, you're the only this friend, you're the only that friend. It can be a very unique situation to be in a room full of people who are different culturally, they're different in ideas. Right. Sometimes when it boils down to certain isms that are going on in one's community and culture, you would want somebody at least, and you were talking about, well, you know, why would people want to go back to finding somebody like you because there is a connection there that is, you will want somebody to understand where you are coming from when it boils down to nuance of culture, nuance of language, nuance of community. Right. And yes, you can go to work every day and be around people who are so totally different from yourself, but then you be thinking to yourself, do they really understand where I'm coming from? Right. The way I pronounce words, the music that I listen to, the way I wear my clothes, the way I wear my hair. You see sometimes on social media where there is a politicalness in how you wear your hair. That's true. And then there is this scenario, you know, where people don't understand that there is a need of respect and understanding and consideration within the human sphere of this us being, because you will be surprised how ignorant people can be when it boils down to what people do on that they are accustomed to, that we don't understand, that we don't get, that we, you know, there are certain things that we are, you know, I go to work every day. There are certain things I don't quite understand what certain people, other people do, but I do. But do communication, do conversation. You try to embrace it. You try to understand it. Because I know people don't understand. You know, I'm from the Southeast. I'm from the South, and it shows in my voice. It shows up in my mannerisms. And then I am Black. and I go to I'm
You're
black.
black?
I'm black. I am
I
black.
had no idea.
I'm all over. I'm black all over. But to go into a warehouse that's almost Hispanic majority, you have to you wonder, do you know, is there some angst there? There's some misunderstanding there. What's going on? And then you know, but you can't always live your day to day with that type of mindset because it will destroy your connections with people. Right. You try to find some common ground with people, regardless of where they stand in politics and stuff like that, whether you agree to disagree.
Right.
And but yeah, there always this need. There's always going to be this need for a connection that will look like you. And I would say
you a good point. I think that the problem that I'm seeing is that, and you know, I tell you about this every day, is that I'm getting to the point that I don't expect much from someone that looks like me because, you know, in my environment, you know, in my job outside of this job, you know, the opportunities for people that look like me to embrace they don't do it.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
you know,
I understand where you're coming from.
You know, but the other, you know, representatives that are there, they're individuals. They come in and they make that acknowledgement and they make sure that they ask for them and they make sure that they get taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it. You know, I have people that look at me dead in my face, dead in my eye, and will go to the other side to be able to get what they think they need. And it's very disheartening. You know, I mean, sitting there, it is. And then in my situation, you know, at my store, I am the only person of color, except for our customer service person. But really, since I've been with this company, every store I've been in, I've been the only person of color, you know, at the end of the day. But, you know, I don't allow that to bother me, you know, to that extent. But I do realize and I do know that it's there. But, you know, for me turning cartwheels and jumping all over the place because no, that's not necessary. But I would like to think that those that see me and really see me would be supporting me, but they don't. But anyway, we got to go on. That's a whole nother educational level that's a group of people that, you know, somehow they're not willing to do at this point, you know, and allowing stigmatisms and things that have been laid over, you know.
Yeah.
You know. But we're going to go on. We're going to let Javon, our buddy that comes, he has a really good point here about how the community, and it kind of goes in line exactly what we were talking about a few minutes ago, how we label people in what we call sin. Okay.
When you say find the light, would you mind defining that for us? Because what exactly are you all claiming to possess? Some moral height, some spiritual ranking, an existential advantage? I genuinely believe that you all equate numbers with legitimacy, as if agreement itself generates truth. But that shows me you don't know the golden rule. If majority is your proof, you are not in the light. You are in formation. Let's be clear. No religion on the planet can claim to be light because light exists before structure was formed. It's almost as if you all think divinity waited until institutions got here to express itself. Belief is the absence of not knowing, and denominations are the byproduct of that belief. That's why each franchise sells you the same product, different packaging, same uncertainty. So I would hope you are not saying religion is the light, because if it were the light, there would not be denominations, because light does not disagree with itself. But let me give you perspective. Religion could never be the light. The introduction of the devil externalized responsibility and redirected inner agency, replacing accountability with spiritual blame. Think, if everybody goes through the same biological process governed by the same physical laws, animated by the same underlying force, then separation becomes narrative because it's not a reality. And the narrative is what makes it dark, because what's commonly defended as difference is a difference in variation within the same intelligence. This is why you watch your mouth when you recklessly tell a stranger to find the light, because you cannot recklessly preach illumination while hiding inside of a denomination convinced that you are permanently in the dark when your source is the light.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. You take that one.
No, you're gonna take it. But to be honest with you, that's almost a situation of control, regardless, that we're now having to face.
Yes.
in these times where, nowadays everything that is conservative is boiled down with some form of religion. And it's very telling right now with the way everything is going and the direction of government. The saddest thing about it, with the church, and we have a thing with religion and government where it doesn't supposed to cross paths, but it seems to do intentionally. It does cross paths, and that's what really makes things all types of icky and dirty. But I also want to ask you this question, though, when it boils down to the situations of lust, when lust, I always say, comes when one is sometimes either triggered with depression or insecurity or whatever that is bringing them down. That thing, and it comes in forms of wanting to control somebody that they are close to, whether it's a partner or whoever that you are engaging. It's always or whoever, because nowadays you have sex sites, you have hookup sites, you have a lot of ways of getting that connection through when you are feeling some type of way, when you're feeling some form of longing. Some people who feel that, they go on those apps to find somebody who is almost in the same scenario as them, and they meet, and that happens, which is what we're we were just joking with OnlyFans about the syntax, but it's the fact that is now the thing right now. But I noticed that more, not only in the gay community, but as well as in the heterosexual community as well.
But go ahead.
But it's so prevalent in everything that we see in music, movies, and all that stuff. But it always comes at a dark period in one's situation, that thinking of lust.
That's true.
But then and that's where I feel like when it boils down to it, you would like to seek religion or whatever religion that you worship to help you get through that. But sometimes not sometimes, but in most situations that doesn't always help.
Well, it's there again a lot to unpack.
It is a lot.
When you were saying that, I think that we can't speak for. We're going to speak for the male perspective, but we can't speak for the woman perspective.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that they.
Well, we are very sexual beings, right? The male perspective,
right? And it is the hardest thing for a male to control is his sexual desires, regardless of what that is. At the end of the day,
in the animal kingdom too.
Well, true. But then, of course, that's a whole other situation there. And being that it is, and when we know that, okay, this is where my question would be: is that when we know that, then why do we allow ourselves to continue to fall for that? So should it not be that we are seeking out ways to help, conserve that, or not putting ourselves in that particular position? That means, again, going within. What is the inward struggle that's there that it has to be pacified by the lust of these other areas? And it gets so complicated or convoluted, I should say, in our minds, because we start wanting to say this is right, that's wrong, that's right, this is wrong. This is in this, we're judging this, and you kind of said, like, one thing I want to say about that is that whether it's someone going to the visual side of it, or whether someone's seeking a prostitute, okay, if there's no difference. It's fulfilling a lust, necessarily that's there. Okay, prostitutes have been around, as they always say, since Jesus was around, and they performed a lot of jobs, in the process of that. But in the 20th century, they've gotten a bad rap, in ways because of the aspect of the identifying of what lust is, and then not helping people to understand that there's something going on with them internally, and to help them manage that. It's like managing everything else. It's just one of the things that has the greatest power, because that's the one we give into. So we feed into it, we put power into it all the time. But if we stop feeding it, then it becomes less of the major part of the struggle in that area of lust. But it's the same way I talked about earlier. Let's just take it off of sexual. Let's just put it on food. Okay, you know what I'm saying? People do that. I mean, you got people that are 600 pounds that are out here. I'm not throwing any shade. It's just the truth. Behind the truth. But there's a lust factor for that food. There's a problem going on internally that they have to have that food to pacify. You have people the same way that lust after spending money.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? And the passive, is it a word, pacification? I guess that maybe not a word, but I'm going to use it as a word. They get pacified for that lust for running to having the most expensive designer bag. You know, you got people now that lust after that so much that they're robbing stores and taking bags from stores.
That's the lust for thrill.
Well, okay,
some people do that for the thrill.
Or to say they get away. But again, it's all in the factors of all those things. You know what I'm saying? So,
I don't condone it though, because I think that's the most to do that is not making things better.
No.
Especially for those people who have to work in those situations. Because I've worked retail, and for things that are stolen, they are insured, but then you have
not all of them.
Well, not all of it, but that is the excuse for a lot of people who's
but everything give you the right to steal it. But go ahead, let me cut you off.
But that's what people go to. Like, I don't know why y'all even, but then they forget that with that comes loss of productivity, loss of hours, loss of labor costs, because then things are not selling, and when profit has fallen, that means somebody hours have to be sacrificed.
Absolutely.
And that means people will not get paid it's a trip. It's a domino effect that people tend to not take into consideration. But then that's people.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say that's people. That's the situation the society that we live in, where people do not take that into consideration. And when you do stuff like that, you are robbing somebody of their livelihood to survive.
Absolutely.
But that's where I feel like when it boils down to it, lust it can be a very inconsiderate situation too.
That's a good scenario. I like that.
Yes.
Lust is very inconsiderate.
It's
very selfish.
Yes, it is. Very
it's selfish, because it's a self-gratification of what it needs. And then because of that self-gratification, at times people will go to the great lengths, financially and otherwise, to great lengths to fulfill that opportunity. It becomes very selfish.
Yes, it has.
That's a great. I like how you brought that in there. So we're going to move on because it's about our time is getting about up here. Another one of our go-to as far as encouragement, I can't think of his name right now, gentleman, that a motivational speaker, but he talks about and this is a good place of how to readjust ourselves when things are not going right, and how we need to look at that as a victory for ourselves. And once we've accomplished, and it's accomplishment to go through that, and we don't look at it like that. We look at it as something as a defeat, and it's not a defeat. At the end of the day, but we'll take us what he's got to say.
I think we forget that pressure creates diamonds, that adversity creates growth, that struggle yields transformation. We forget that because we're too busy looking on the outside. Very few of us take time to really reflect on what's going on the inside. And here's what ends up happening. You'll go through something difficult and you're like, if I could just make it through this, if I could just make it through. And then you make it through and then you forget about that. And then the next thing will come in a couple months or a couple years. And you're like, if I can just make it through. Stop begging and hoping and wishing and just look back on your life, on everything that you've ever gone through, and realize that whatever hard thing you went through, it has always made you better. Always. Always. So now when you know that, you'll know that you'll always be okay. So when it gets hard, it's not hard. This is just my opportunity to grow right now.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. If I could submit this to our conversation tonight, and just kind of going off what he said, if we're going to lust for something, and we're going to find the truth, let the lust be for our personal growth and success. Let's lust after that. Let's lust after the ultimate fulfillment of a reward that we know that we've accomplished this level of whatever it is, education, learning more about scripture, learning more about the God that has created you, that is in you, that you're a part of. Start learning more about that. Turn off the noise.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, turn off the noise. Okay. I appreciate, the spiritual practices that a lot of people do in Buddhism and Hinduism, I mean, because they believe in meditation.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
You know, and when they meditate, they turn off the noise, okay, and they go where? Within. They don't go externally. And I think that Christians have had just such this misknown teachings about things that everything has to be up and out, you know, and we've never looked at down within. You know, and because we haven't looked down within, we expect these great movements of the external and miss the opportunity of what's going on in the internal.
Mm.
Because the development where we should be is within the ranks of the internal. You know, let's just use Jesus as an example. Do you think that, you know, in understanding of what has been said in the stories of his life and the things that he purposefully tried to be an example of, do you think that he did all of that externally? Not one time. Not one time can you say that Jesus ever did his accomplishment externally. You know, you think about it. You think about the Garden of Gethsemane. You know, it was internal. It was an internal acceptance. It was an internal idea of that moment or those next few hours that he was giving his whole internal being, you know, for humanity. You know what I'm saying? Let's just use that example of being on the cross. You know, and I'm not teaching a religious point here, guys. I just want you to understand that I use them as an example, but as an example of what we need. And this, again, this is just me, and this is, you know, how free I am about, you know, and speaking of that's how we should be looking at Christianity in the first place. Mm-hmm. It should be in a strong internal effort. You know, and that internal effort makes us the examples that we need to be for humanity. Not coming in somebody going to a pastor telling him about how his wife's dress looks so inappropriate. Mm-hmm. That's not the discussion that should be even happening at the end of the day.
That should not even be the topic.
It should not be the topic of the day. All right, it really should not be. And then it should have been keeping your mouth shut off of somebody else's business. That should have been the first thing. And if you would have went internally, guess what? We probably would have found a reason not to say it. Mm-hmm. Okay, the same way where you want to go down the lines of sexual gender and saying that the gay community, and I don't know, well, let me just say this real quick. I don't know why y'all just all of a sudden decided to jump on the LGBT community. Everything y'all want to talk about is about the LGBT. Y'all are protesting too much. Okay, especially y'all men. Y'all protesting way too much.
It's very telling.
It is.
Very
you know,
telling.
If you think you're hiding something by putting an attention on something, you are exposing yourself very much so. Yeah. I would encourage you, and I'm sure other people would, look, just being honest with you, go within. Go within. Deal with that struggle with it. If you like men, you like men. If you like women, you like women.
Are you pansexual?
And if you, I'm going to call it bisexual. You know, pot and pan, whatever you are. That's your private business. At the end of the day, we don't need to know that. And the world doesn't need to know that. And when you go to whom you ever go to sleep with at night and you close your bedroom door, whatever goes on there needs to stay into that. And I'm saying this to the gay community as well as the straight community. Gay folk, let me tell you, we don't need to know if you're bottom, top, in between, all over it. That's nobody's business. And y'all need to stop putting that stuff out there too, because you're just as guilty. All right. Don't know about, and then honestly, it does become offensive to people that are not a part of your community. And even those that are in your community get offended by it. Keep your tongue. Please keep your tongue. You know, it's not necessary for you to tell the world what you do privately. Just like it ain't, you know, on the other side, sexual behavior, no matter who you're doing it with, keep it to yourself and enjoy yourself when you need to enjoy it within the ranks you need to enjoy it. Okay. Your lust factors don't need to be ours. Okay.
Unless there's a Dr. Ruth somewhere, we can discuss it.
Oh, there probably is.
Dr. Ruth.
but even in having a discussion about something like that end of it is, in my opinion, is way too much. Because here the other communities take that opportunity because you put it out there, and then they start associating and assuming, and then also. I don't want to get into this, but it kind of fits into the mode. Just like there was a video you showed us in our meeting last night about the young guy that was gay and he was a wrestler.
Oh yeah,
and he whipped that boy's ass. Okay, all right. And in the wrestling context, and he got up and walked away, and in his display of who he was,
yes, he was.
And what could they say? Everybody gave him high fives and everything else at the end of the day, but probably his internal part was to say that he is tired of people assuming because of who he is that he is not masculine enough to maintain his manhood. You know, at the end of the day, that's another conversation that needs to stop happening. Men, stop saying that, because I'm gonna tell you, you get in the ring with some of these gay men, they will whip your ass and walk away and give you a finger snap and walk away and tell you to kiss their booty and keep going.
Yeah, these new breeds.
Okay, so they ain't got. Well, it's not even about even losing something. It's just the principle of the disrespect.
I know, right?
You know
that's what I mean.
Oh yeah.
They don't have nothing to lose anymore.
Right, true.
I mean, the facts are the facts. Now, the new breeds is nothing. That's what we're talking about. Respectability, politics. That goes hand in hand with what I'm just, displaying, because of the fact that people will think because of what you represent, you should not be out there doing that.
Right.
Whooping ass, or there is a stereotype of gay men being soft,
right?
Too soft,
right? Absolutely,
and that's not the case.
Look, I'm gonna tell
not
you,
the
there's
case
a
at
lot
all.
of soft, straight.
Oh yeah, we see that.
There's a lot of soft, straight men, but look, that's again.
Passport bros.
Okay.
Passport bros. Okay, we know.
So, but the thing about this is that why are we even having to have a conversation about someone's the idea of masculinity? Because somebody instituted that in the conversation and wanted to prove a point that they were more powerful than the other person. So if I can act you, said I'm more powerful than you, then that makes me better than you. No, it doesn't. No,
it's all based on control.
It's all based on control. At the end of the day. So, but anyway, so back to as we wrap it up tonight. The lust factor, yes, we all are plagued with it. Doesn't matter who you are, okay, at the end of the day, all right? But you do have the responsibility to put it in its perspective and offer the control over that it can be for your life, okay? Because it can destroy your life and it can help your life.
That's true.
Okay? If you have the lust of the right thing of getting a project done, creating a show, writing a movie, writing a film, being an actor, being a singer, being a songwriter, and you have the lust for that type of thing, that can be a great thing for you.
That's true.
At the end of the day. But unfortunately, that word associates with so much of sexual behavior that it's so unfortunate that when it's used in the context of something else that is downgraded, we can't see it because that word hits your ear, and what do you think? Sex.
That's true.
As soon as you hear that word, you think.
Well, naturally, that's what it comes from. That's what it stems from. Well, and even in the definition of lust, that's where is sexual desires. Well, but I hear what you're saying. But there are so many levels to that word other than sex.
Right.
But I hear what you're saying. But okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. But it just. But again, I think one thing I think we feel something by that word is because it ignites something in you.
That's true.
It's a movement in you, and you say it's like, oh, something moved in me. Uh-oh. So, yeah, exactly. Something moved in me. Okay, so now what am I going to do with this movement? Am I going to move this way, or am I going to move that way? Am I going to move forward, or am I going to move back?
That's true.
See what I'm saying? So it does still become that cross point of your decision at that time frame. If you're using it to, anyway, we don't get no further into it, but just, But anyway, tonight, as we said, where it is, this is a point in 2026 for you to fix it in 2026. Okay, sure. It's an opportunity there. All right, it's too much going on. Utilize those opportunities to strengthen yourself within. We're gonna keep telling you all year, go within. Go within, because that's where you spend. Like Michael Jackson said last week, man in the mirror. I still wonder why that song, even at its time, did not stay at the top of the charts for weeks. It should be still reigning right now, the number one.
It should.
At the end of the day. And then
meaning it's so universal.
It is. And and it's very applicable to you getting up every day and looking at the man in the mirror. What is that man gonna do in the mirror? Every day. But as we go out, I got one of these little baby AIs, from Red Fox. Him and Esther. So we're going to leave you guys with that. We're going to tell you, have a great rest of your week. Yeah. We'll see you back here next Tuesday night. Thank you for the opportunity to share with us and be with us. And the technical difficulties, we ain't got to explain it to you, but we're going to get through them. It's just a new system that we're trying to work out. And it just, you don't know sometimes until you go live what's it doing, until that moment. But anyway, keep following us, keep contributing to us, keep giving us your voice. We love you guys, all the world we're saying, okay, at the end of the day. And those of you that have contributed to us, we really love you. We really appreciate it. This has been 6 wonderful years, and we're going to start 7 pretty soon. All right. Love you guys. You have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. We're going to leave you out with this little funny clip. Get out.
All right, ha! You got that?
Got it.
Oh, hi, son. What you doing walking around talking to yourself like a fool? Come here, son. Huh? Don't move now. Don't move, just be calm. Don't get excited, and don't move to your right. Sort of ease over to your left, son, because I'm positive there's some fungus growing over there. Watch it, sucker. I don't have to take no insults from you. You sure don't. Just look in the mirror.
Pop, do you always have to attack Aunt Esther like this?
Yeah, until they find some kind of cure for her. I just came over here to ask you if you want me to cook dinner for you and your friends. But now, I wouldn't do nothing for you or any of your old sinful friends. Lamont, you always welcome to my house. But you, Fred Sanford, you old fish-eyed fool. Don't you ever set foot in my house again. Oh, glory, you old heathen. Back in your cave, you